The Buddha's words on the sense spheres. Monks, I will teach you the all. Listen carefully. And what is the all? The eye and form, the ear and sounds, the nose and odours, the tongue and tastes, the body and tactile objects, the mind and mental phenomena. This is called the all. Venerable Sir, it is said, the world, the world. In what way might there be the world, or in the description of the world? Where there is the eye, samidhi, where there are forms, eye consciousness, things to be cognized by eye consciousness, there the world exists, or the description of the world. Where there is the ear, the mind, where there are mental phenomena, mind consciousness, things to be cognized by mind consciousness, there the world exists, or the description of the world. Monks, I say that the end of the world cannot be known, seen or reached by travelling. Yet I also say that without reaching the end of the world, there is no making an end of to suffering. Venerable Ananda spoke. I understand the detailed meaning of this synopsis, which the Buddha recited in brief without a detailed exposition, as follows. By whatever means people perceive the world as the world, and consider the world to be the world, this is called the world in the Noble One's discipline. And by which means do people perceive the world as the world, consider the world to be the world? It is by way of the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind that people perceive the world as the world, consider the world as the world. Monks, I will teach you the origin and the passing away of the world. Listen closely. And what is the origin of the world? Independence on the eye and forms, eye consciousness arises. The meaning of the three is contact. With contact as condition, feeling comes to be. With feeling as condition, craving. With craving as condition, clinging. With clinging as condition, becoming. With becoming as condition, birth. With birth as condition, aging and death. Sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair come to be. This is the origin of the world. Independence on the ear and sounds, the nose and odours, the tongue and tastes, the body and tactile objects, the mind and mental phenomena. Mind consciousness arises. This is the origin of the world. And what is the passing away of the world? Independence on the eye and forms, eye consciousness arises. The meeting of the three is contact. With contact as condition, feeling comes to be. With feeling as condition, craving, but with the remainderless fading away and cessation of that craving comes cessation of clinging. With the cessation of clinging, cessation of becoming. With the cessation of becoming, cessation of birth. With the cessation of birth, aging and death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief and despair cease. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. This is the passing away of the world. Independence on ear and sounds, the nose and odours, the tongue and tastes, the body and tactile objects, the mind and mental phenomena, mind consciousness arises. This is the passing away of the world. Venerable Sir, it is said, Mara, Mara. It is said, a being, a being. It is said, suffering, suffering. In what way might there be Mara, or the description of Mara, a being, or the description of being, suffering, or a description of suffering? Where there is the I, Samidhi, where there are forms, I consciousness, things to be cognized by I consciousness. The mind, where there are mental phenomena, mind consciousness, things to be cognized by mind consciousness. There Mara exists, or the description of Mara. A being exists, or the description of a being. Suffering exists, or the description of suffering. When the I exists, the Arahants designate pleasure and pain. When the I does not exist, the Arahants do not designate pleasure and pain. When the I, nose, tongue, body and mind exist, the Arahants designate pleasure and pain. When the ear, nose, tongue, body and mind does not exist, the Arahants do not designate pleasure and pain. Monks, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind is impermanent, subject to pressure, dukkha, non-self, the cause and condition for the arising of the eye. Ear, nose, tongue, body, mind is also impermanent. As the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind has originated from what is impermanent, dukkha, non-self, how could it be permanent, inherently pleasurable, sukha, self? Forms, sounds, smells, tastes, tangibles, mind objects are impermanent. Dukkha, non-self, the cause and condition for the arising of forms. Sounds, smells, tastes, tangibles, mind objects are also impermanent. As forms, sounds, smells, tastes, tangibles, mind objects have originated from what is impermanent, dukkha, non-self, how could they be permanent, inherently pleasurable, self? Suppose, monks, that the rice seedlings have ripened and the watchman is negligent. If a bull fond of rice enters the paddy field, he might indulge himself as much as he likes. So too the uninstructed worldling, who does not exercise restraint over the 6 bases for contact, indulges himself as much as he likes in the 5 chords of sensual pleasure. Monks, these 6 bases for contact, if untrained, unguarded, unprotected, unrestrained, are conveyors of suffering. These 6 bases for contact, if well trained, well guarded, well protected, well restrained, are conveyors of happiness. How is it, friend Sariputta? Is the I the fetter of forms, or are forms the fetter of the I? The ear is the ear the fetter of sounds, the nose the fetter of odors, the tongue the fetter of tastes, the body the fetter of tangible objects, the mind the fetter of mental phenomena, or are mental phenomena the fetter of the mind? Friend Kotita, the I is not the fetter of forms, nor are forms the fetter of the I, but rather the desire and lust that arise there in dependence on both the I and forms, that is the fetter there. The mind is not the fetter of mental phenomena, nor are mental phenomena the fetter of the mind, but rather the desire and lust that arise there in dependence on both, that is the fetter there. If the I were the fetter of forms, or if the forms were the fetter of the I, this living of the holy life could not be actualized for the complete destruction of suffering. But since the I is not the fetter of forms, nor are forms the fetter of the I, but rather the desire and lust that arise there. In dependence on both is the fetter there. The living of the holy life can be actualized for the complete destruction of suffering. The Blessed One has an eye. The Blessed One sees forms with the eye, yet there is no desire and lust in the Blessed One. The Blessed One is well liberated in mind. The Blessed One has an ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, yet there is no desire and lust in the Blessed One. The Blessed One is well liberated in mind. Although, Venerable Sir, I am old, aged, burdened with years, advanced in life, come to the last stage, let the Blessed One, the Welfarer, teach me the Dhamma in brief. Perhaps I may understand the meaning of the Blessed One's statement. Perhaps I may become an heir to the Blessed One's statement. What do you think, Malunkiya Putta? Do you have any desire, lust, or affection for those forms cognizable by the eye that you may have not seen and never saw before, that you do not see and would not think might be seen? No, Venerable Sir. Do you have desire, lust, or affection for those sounds cognizable by the ear, odors cognizable by the nose, tastes cognizable by the tongue, tangibles cognizable by the body, mind objects cognizable by the mind, that you have not known and never knew before, that you do not know and would not think might be known? No, Venerable Sir. Here, Malunkiya Putta, regarding things seen, heard, sensed, and known by you. In the seen there will be merely the seen. In the heard there will be merely the heard. In the sensed there will be merely the sensed. In the known there will be merely the known. When regarding things seen, heard, sensed, and known by you, in the seen there will be merely the seen. In the heard there will be merely the heard. In the sensed there will be merely the sensed. In the known there will be merely the known. Then you will not exist by way of that. When you do not exist by way of that, you will not exist therein. When you do not exist therein, then you will be neither here nor beyond nor in between the two. This itself is the end of suffering. I understand, Venerable Sir, having seen a form with muddled mindfulness, attending only to the pleasing signs, one experiences it with infatuated mind, and remains tightly holding to it. Many feelings flourish within, originating from visible form, and one's mind becomes disturbed by covetousness and distress. For one who accumulates suffering thus, Nibbana is said to be far away. Having heard a sound, having smelt an odor, having tasted a flavor, having felt a tangible, having known a mental phenomenon, with muddled mindfulness, for one who accumulates suffering thus, Nibbana is said to be far away. When firmly mindful, one sees a form, yet does not attach to form. With a mind uninfatuated, one experiences feelings without enslavement to the sense object. One fares mindfully in such a way that even as one sees the form, and while one experiences a feeling, suffering is exhausted, not built up. For one not accumulating suffering thus, Nibbana is said to be close by. When firmly mindful, one hears a sound, smells an odor, tastes a flavor, feels a tangible, knows a mental phenomenon, yet does not attach to mental phenomena. For one not accumulating suffering thus, Nibbana is said to be close by. In what way is one with sense doors unguarded, here having seen a form with the eye, someone is intent upon a pleasing form, and repelled by a displeasing form. He dwells without having set up mindfulness, with a limited mind. He does not understand, as it really is, that liberation of mind, that liberation of wisdom, wherein those evil, unwholesome states cease without remainder. Having heard a sound, having smelt an odour, having tasted a flavour, having felt a tangible, having known a mental object, he is intent upon a pleasing object, repelled by a displeasing object. In what way is one with sense doors guarded, here having seen a form with the eye? Someone is not intent upon pleasing form, and not repelled by a displeasing form. He dwells, having set up mindfulness, with a measureless mind, and he understands as it really is that liberation of mind, that liberation by wisdom, wherein those evil, unwholesome states within cease without remainder. Having heard a sound, having smelt an odour, having tasted a flavour, having smelt a tangible, having known a mental object, he is not intent upon pleasing, or upon a pleasing object, and not repelled by a displeasing object. And how, monks, does one dwell diligently? If one dwells with restraint over the eye faculty, the mind is not distracted by forms cognizable by the eye. If the mind is not distracted, gladness is born. When one is gladdened, rapture is born. When the mind is uplifted by rapture, the body becomes tranquil. One tranquil in body experiences happiness. The mind of one who is happy becomes concentrated. When the mind is concentrated, phenomena become manifest. Because phenomena become manifest, one is reckoned as one who dwells diligently. The same is true for the remaining 5 sense faculties. Ananda, how is there the supreme development of the faculties in the Noble One's discipline? Here, when a bhikkhu sees a form with the eye, hears a sound with the ear, smells an odour with the nose, tastes a flavour with the tongue, feels a tangible with the body, knows a mental object with the mind, there arises in him what is agreeable, there arises what is disagreeable, there arises what is both agreeable and disagreeable. He understands thus: there has arisen in me what is agreeable, there has arisen what is disagreeable, there has arisen what is both agreeable and disagreeable, but that is conditioned, gross, dependently arisen. This subsequent state is peaceful and sublime, that is equanimity. The agreeable that arose, the disagreeable that arose, and the both agreeable and disagreeable that arose in him cease, and equanimity is established. Just as a man with good sight, having opened his eyes, might shut them, or having shut his eyes, might open them, so too, concerning anyone at all, the agreeable that arose, the disagreeable that arose, and the both agreeable and disagreeable that arose cease just as quickly, just as rapidly, just as easily, and equanimity is established. This is called in the Noble One's discipline the supreme development of the faculties. Bhikkhus, when one discerns the eye as it actually is, when one discerns forms as they actually are, when one discerns and sees eye consciousness as it actually is, when one discerns eye contact as it actually is, when one discerns as it actually is the pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant feelings that arise with eye contact as condition, then one is not caught up with the eye, with forms, with eye consciousness, with eye contact, with the pleasant or painful, or neither painful nor pleasant feelings that arise with eye contact as condition. When one abides unattached, unobsessed, uninfatuated, realizing danger, then the 5 aggregates affected by clinging are not accumulated in the future, and one's craving, which brings renewal of being, is accompanied by delight and lust, and searches for amusement in this or that is abandoned. One's mental or bodily worries are abandoned. One's bodily and mental torments are abandoned. One's bodily and mental fevers are abandoned. Such a person experiences bodily and mental pleasure. The view of a person such as this is right view. His intention is right intention. His effort is right effort. His mindfulness is right mindfulness. His concentration is right concentration. His bodily action, his verbal action, and his livelihood have already been well purified earlier. Thus the Noble Eightfold Path comes to fulfillment in him by development. The same applies to the remaining 5 sense bases.